What's up, everybody? Welcome, Simply Cyber community, to Simply Cyber Live. We have an excellent episode for you today. Many of you know our guest, Neal Bridges, the host and content creator over at Cybersecurity and a good friend of mine. And I'm really, really happy that he's on. Neal and I always have a lot of things that we agree on, and we have several things that we have differing opinions, differing philosophies on. And I'm sure we're going to get into all of that today. So special thanks to everybody who is here live. If you want to ask Neal questions, ask me questions as the debate, as the dispute gets going, you know what to do. Drop a question in chat with a Q at the beginning so I know it's for us. We will bring them on. We're going to have a lively session. It's a little bit different than what we normally do. This conversation can go anywhere, and I'm super, super pumped. So without further ado, let's get Neal up on stage. Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. I noticed that you choked a little bit on the "my good friend" part of that intro. I know that. I'm glad I paid you enough money to where it didn't come out too painful as you said it.
I mean, you did email me. You did email me and told me what to say as far as like what our friendship is. So I wanted to make sure I said it just right.
I appreciate that. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Simply Cyber is doing excellent. We've got just a great community. We're building something really special here, and we've got the morning threat briefings that are being well received. So we're taking it one step at a time.
I love it. I see those things come across, and I tip my hat to you every morning. And I'm like, good freaking job, dude. I want to officially say it. I know we give each other crap, but I am super proud of you for doing those threat briefs, and I'm super proud that it's working out and that everybody's getting a ton of value out of it. So, dude, good on you, man.
Well, thank you very much, and I can guarantee you with absolute certainty, if you told 20-year-old Jerry, hey, guess what? You're going to get up at 8 a.m. Well, not even 8 a.m. You're going to get up at 7 a.m. and you're going to be lecturing for 30 minutes at 8 a.m. every day. 20-year-old Jerry would have been like, hard pass.
Hard pass. I'm good. I'll pass.
Yeah, hard pass. I'm good. So Neal, a lot of people know you, but for those who don't, Neal is the chief content creator at an excellent cybersecurity focused YouTube channel called Cybersecurity. But you may have known him when he was on Twitch, and he recently switched to YouTube. So Neal, just to start the conversation off, like, why did you make that transition? And really, more importantly, how are things going on YouTube?
No, it's awesome, and we've been on YouTube now. I think for I think we're about 6 months or so now that we've been over on YouTube. It's a long and arduous story, and it's actually kind of personal to me. Twitch has always been really, really keen on the gamer culture. And that was one of the reasons we originally started streaming on Twitch, was we wanted to try to reach people who were at various stages of their career. Oftentimes, and you know this, folks in our industry focus too hard on the C-suite and on CISOs and trying to get CISO eyes on content. And I share a passion with you in terms of trying to bring people into this industry and keep them educated and keep them interested in cyber. And I realized that if I wanted to reach folks like that, I needed to be on a platform where I could find them. And so it was natural for me to kind of pick Twitch as a platform to try to reach that demographic. And we were crushing it. We were doing really good. We achieved partner status in less than 6 months. And, which is really unheard of in the science and technology catalog. We were very frequently the number one, number two stream over on Twitch in science and technology. And then my son came to visit me. And he's 11, and he's super proud of his dad, who's a streamer. He's like, because he puts me up there with folks like Ninja and Muselk and, Mr. Beast and those guys. I was like, those guys are streamers, and my dad's a streamer. So therefore he's cool because he's a streamer, right?
Nice. I can't wait for my kids to get there.
Yeah.
They go cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, then we were watching, we were in the other room, and, he was like, hey, can we watch, something on Twitch? And, pulled up Twitch, and right on the front blast page of Twitch was, some questionable content. And my 11-year-old son was like, Dad, what's that? And I was kind of like, ooh, for a stream that's trying to be professional, for a stream that's trying to lure companies to talk to the younger audience we do a ton of outreach with folks like INE, like VMware Carbon Black, like Attack IQ, companies like that. We did not necessarily want to have our brand associated with some of the questionable content that was coming up on Twitch. And then a couple months later, after that, there was a virtual walkout on Twitch because there was a lot of hate rating. One of the things that we would do frequently as a streaming community is we would go find other streamers who were up and coming in the science and technology catalog who were doing cybersecurity content, and we would take our entire audience, we'd go rate them, similar to what you and I do, with the Simply Cyber to cyber and security in the morning. And that was a staple for what we would do on cyber and security. Well, there were other folks who were doing it for not good reasons. They were hate rating other streamers who were marginalized, LGBTQ, things like that. And there was a staged walkout, a virtual walkout on September 1st, I think it was. And Twitch basically was not instituting any controls or anything like that to try to reduce the amount of hate rating that was going on. And even now there's still a ton of hate rating that goes on in Twitch. And so I think that for us, that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. We were like, we need to get away from, we're a very non-toxic community. We promote non-toxicity. We encourage folks to ask questions, no matter what level of question it is. There is no stupid question mantra, and we don't believe in a try harder mentality. And we just felt like the culture over on Twitch didn't align with our culture on cyber and security. And so I want to give a huge shout out. I know a lot of my mods are in chat. Folks like BSEC, Chris, the Joshes, tons of my folks that from my mod team. We all sat down and we had a month-long plan for how we were going to transition from Twitch to YouTube, and my team crushed it. We couldn't have made the transition successfully if it wasn't for my mod team. And so I want to give a huge shout out to everybody from my mod team and as well as everybody from the viewership that kind of went with us as we made that transition. And so we haven't been happier since.
Yeah. And, with Google buying YouTube and like, I really feel like YouTube, it's always been great for content, and they're starting to invest heavily into the gaming space, which is not what you and I operate, but it's an indicator of investment. And when you think of how businesses operate, if they're investing heavily into the platform, they have plans for it, right? And the gaming one is just, in my opinion, it's the easiest one to build up and get a huge foundation base.
Yep.
And then they can stack on top of it with business and education and music. A lot of musicians playing on YouTube and stuff like that.
There's a creator I follow, Harris Heller. I think I know you know Harris, and I think he's a good indicator as to some of the changes that you're going to see in the streaming kind of model in the industry. And he was talking about his views on how he thinks that having some of these big creators like Tim the Tatman and Valkyrie and some of these other big creators coming over to YouTube are really going to help change the streaming game. And so I'm super excited to see how that changes streaming over on YouTube, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of people were asking before the stream came on because they knew you were coming on, and Basis just captured it perfectly. Where are you taking cyber insecurity?
That's a really good question. If you've watched cyber insecurity, we've experimented with a lot of things. One of the things that as a content creator, and this, right? But for folks who are listening, right, there's always this challenge as a content creator is how do we make new content? How do we do content that's engaging? How do we do it so it's beneficial? How do we do it so it's giving back to the community? One of my personal pet peeves is I hate doing content that everybody else is doing, right? I will never ride somebody else's coattail on content success. You see this when it comes to doing things like the Try Hack Me rooms or the Hack the Box rooms. Like I refuse to do that because that's just not I refuse to be a copycat in that way. I love that you're doing the threat. I love that you're doing the threat and tell things in the morning. I would love to contribute to that. I'd love to do my own, but I'm not going to copycat out of respect for you and because I think you're crushing it. And I don't see a need to have another one of those out there. And so the team, I can tell you that if you're on our Discord, you'll oftentimes see the mod team kind of powwowed around in our control room. That's us trying to brainstorm and figure out new ways that we can bring content to the community. And so I'll tell you a couple things. We have always been about, I mentioned the raids and we talked about helping small streamers who are trying to get visible, right? As well as I do, we've been at this game you've been at it for longer than I have. You've been at it for over almost 2 years now. I think I've been at it for
over 2 years.
over
Yeah,
2 years.
It was 2 years in January.
Yeah. And I've been at it for probably about 18 months, so a little bit less than you have. And it's hard to grow. It's hard to get your name and your voice out there. And so one of the things that I've very much done is I've lent my platform out to up and coming streamers, right? So we've got Brett Eskridge, also known as Doc Jade, if you've ever seen him around in Discord. Every Tuesday, he's doing a Python study group. He used to be a professor at a university. He's got a class out there on Linux 101 that he wrote. He's now doing threat intel for a big name company. And he wanted to give back to the community by doing a Python study course for the next 12 weeks. And so we brought him on, and he's got a Tuesday time slot where he's doing a Python study course every Tuesday for the next 12 weeks. We've got Brandon Krieger, who comes on Wednesday. He was a salesperson who is now an associate director of incident response, crushing his goals of trying to break into cybersecurity every Wednesday, to kind of give his perspective as he grows up and grows through the cyber industry. We've got Josh Mason, who is going to start doing a Java and Josh on Thursday morning, similar to our Friday morning AMAs that we do. So Josh Mason's getting out there. Jack, Sec IT guy, does his Tipsy Cyber Friday night. And so we're constantly trying to find streamers who are interested in getting their name out there, who produce good content, because I don't believe that I'm the only one that has good ideas. Obviously, there's at least two of us. There's you and I, but there's obviously a ton of other people out there that have good ideas too. And so I want to make sure that as cyber insecurity as a team and as a community is growing, we're bringing folks like that up, and we're saying, hey, there are other awesome people in the community. These people have great ideas. They have great content, and you should look at them as well. And so I think that that's kind of something you're going to continue to see us do from a channel perspective, is continue to try to give platforms to other streamers, to have them produce awesome content. I think we're continuously looking, we're trying to do some innovative stuff. Obviously, you and I are both working with Jessica over at Cyber Games, and I think I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, so this may be cyber secrets for those who are listening. Cyber Insecurity is going to be the official outlet for the games that they're doing on, I think it's March 19th, I think is the next round of games that they're doing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And so Cyber Insecurity has been picked up to kind of be the broadcasting outlet for those cyber games on March 19th. And so we're looking for a lot of those opportunities to partner with other organizations. We're working closely with some of our partners in the stream, like VMware Carbon Black, to bring a competitive threat hunting type of exercise into the stream. And so I think that what you're going to continue to see, and I saw BSEC say it, I'll say this last thing and I'll turn it back over to you because I realize I'm monologuing a little bit. We do have a content suggestions, hashtag inside of our Discord. And I can unequivocally tell you that we parse through that content suggestion all the time. And we're constantly looking and trying to evaluate the feasibility of solving those content suggestions. And so I consider us a very, very community driven, in terms of how we do our content, because I would rather produce content that you all want to see that I can do in a unique way. And of course, NFTs. And then I'll stop there and I'll pause it and send it back over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm 100% right there with you, man, as far as making it a community, making it, like when it's funny because when I originally started Simply Cyber, I had it in my head, like, I know what everybody wants to know. And I just started making videos. And then, you get the comments and stuff. And when you're a smaller channel, you're trying to you want to build up quickly. And then, and I was like, well, this isn't really resonating. And then I asked the community, and it really turned into how do I break into cybersecurity? And that's kind of where I focused for a good 6 to 12 months. And I still talk about it, but I've branched out. But it's interesting if you aren't willing to ask what are people wanting to know, if you are trying to tell them what you think they want to know, you're missing the mark altogether. And you're 100%. Not doing yourself any service. You're not doing the community any service. So I agree with you 100%. I mean, I do it slightly different in the Simply Cyber community, but we do something akin to that, especially when guests are coming on. I'll definitely fire it up and say, hey, we're talking GRC with Erica McDuffie. What kind of GRC questions do you have? And you get so much better, richer, wider reaching content than just doing that. So switching gears here, Alexis dropped a question here, and I put a poll on LinkedIn earlier today. But just to kick the question off, so I got my ISACA renewals in the mail today, right? And I've been CISA SISM for like 10 years or something, CISP since '09. Like
Yeah.
I've got certs, but I also have a PhD and I've worked in the industry for 17 years. So I do this every time they come in. I usually can get my employer to pay it, but I don't even know if I even want to go through the effort of doing that. What are your thoughts on certification renewals? Because a lot of people don't know, who are on the outside looking at getting a cert that they're going to help you. Yeah, you have to continuously get education credits to prove that you're still practicing, but there's always like a fee, like a month, like a $200 annual fee, basically per organization. So ISACA, ISC squared, CompTIA, OSCP, or offensive security, or whatever. Well, okay, so now I've started to flip out and froth at the mouth. Tell me, Neal, what are your thoughts about certifications around the renewal process?
Do you need to take your rabies shot for that one? That one looked a little. Hey, real quick, just because I saw you flash across the screen, it looked like my son might be watching, and so Connor, thanks for checking me out, buddy, and I miss you, dude. Can't wait to see you. So I'm very bearish on certs. Right. And this is ironic. I say this and this is by no means a reflection of INE or my stance at INE whatsoever. This is Neal's personal opinion in terms of how I feel about certs. Right. I have certs hanging out over here on the shelf. I've got a couple of GX certs hanging out that I've never renewed. Right. I don't. It's hard. Right. It's hard. The cert game is very, very overplayed in cyber. I was actually having a conversation with a highly respected PE company, private equity company, on Monday, and we were talking about how certs are overplayed, especially in cyber. Literally anybody can start a cert today. If you're listening, if you hear my voice right now, you can go out there and you can create the cert of awesomeness, and it has the same amount of credibility in the industry as almost every other cert. Because all you have to do is get a social following to admit that your cert is awesome. And guess what? Your cert is awesome. Right. And I think that that's the problem that we have with certs, is that we've allowed the social the social stigma around certs to determine their value. And it almost becomes a little bit of FOMO. Like you're like, oh gosh, if I let this cert expire, am I not smart enough anymore? Like, did all your CISP knowledge go away because you didn't renew your CISP cert, right? And so like you're paying a company a maintenance fee to prove that you still have your CISP, but you didn't take any new course content. You didn't actually retake the test. You didn't actually do anything to actually get the updated knowledge, but you're paying the company a maintenance fee to basically give you credibility that you're still a CISP. And to me, I find that fundamentally flawed. I find that predatory, and I find it flawed as a business practice to be able to say, that you're doing that. And so are certs worth it to get and have renewed? I think certs are worth getting. And let me quantify that when I say that, right? I think certs are a trophy on a trophy case, right? I think that if you go through a 6-week course, or you take 500 hours worth of content and you absorb that content, it. I think the passing of a cert or the passing of a test is like finishing the finish line at a race, but that doesn't mean that you didn't run in the race, right? And so that's the problem that I have with certs. So I think people should get certs if it means something to them. It's just like the conversation you and I had over your PhD when we've had Joel Fulton on the stream over your PhD. It was a personal thing for you. It meant something personal to you. And I think that that's the reason why people should chase certs. But you'll always hear me say, my number one statement that I say is chase knowledge, not certs. And so like I don't subscribe to the cert chasing, and I don't subscribe to the cert renewal process.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you. And we see some comments in chat that the certs are a little bit more important earlier in your career because they allow you to get through gates. They help distinguish you from other candidates. But once you're mid to senior tier, you don't even have to go get them, honestly, unless you have some DoD requirement. But
let me interrupt you just 1 second to talk about the gatekeeping part of certs, right? I think that is still a little bit of social social influence that they are gatekeeping. There are plenty of examples. There are plenty of examples of people who have gotten jobs in cybersecurity without some of these staple certs that everybody talks about, right? We've got, I'm sure in your community, I'm sure in my community, I'm sure out there on LinkedIn, there are more than enough examples of that. And so I don't want people to walk away with the impression that, yes, they're needed early on in your career. Look at it as, they might be a distinguishing factor. They might not be a distinguishing factor, but I think that they're not a requirement to ride this ride if you do some of the other things to get a job in this industry.
Okay, so to that point, practical skills are king right now in our industry, right?
Yeah.
So if a cert is tied to practical skill execution as opposed to exam cram, then they have more value. And I think that that's why we're seeing certain certs kind of be positioned as like, this is a good cert because it has practical application. But I will say, you said it's not required to ride the ride. I agree with you 100%. But if you if you're not networking, if you're like, you didn't realize you need to network and you're just graduating college or getting out of the military and you're applying blankly to open recs that say Sec Plus required or whatever, the ATS system is not going, the resume review system that goes through for automation is going to flag you as not having it and push you into the trash can, even if you were a infosec officer in the military, right? For lack of a better term. So
don't disagree with the scenario you painted, but I think that is a lack of, I don't think that you should play into a flawed system. I think that you should hack your best way into the system.
Agreed. I mean, okay, so all systems are going to have vulnerabilities, but if you're going to play the game and the game have these constraints, you give yourself an opportunity to maneuver or have access to that. Of course, you can get in through the back door. I mean, there's people without high school degrees who are quite successful. But so just to, as far as certifications go, that, I guess that's all of my thoughts on that. Practical skills are absolutely king in our current market. So if you're if you're out there listening and you're like, do I get the cert? Do I do some labs or do I go back to school or whatever? The labs are probably going to have the biggest impact on your opportunity cost, or not opportunity cost, your opportunity to demonstrate capability and impress a hiring manager in order to get a job.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to come off as seeming to overly dump on certs, right? Because I do understand everybody's personal value that they put into them. I do understand the ATS. I do understand HR managers and hiring managers don't understand that just because this cert was valid 10 years ago when they got in the career field doesn't mean that they're fully aware of what the cert market is today. And so, I'm not trying to downplay any of that. What I do want people to get across is that's not the only way. And there's actually more effective and more efficient ways to get in than to use your own personal money. See, this is when we talk about fighting back against the system. And I don't mean that from a cyberpunkish kind of way, but if we're wanting to really break down this gatekeeping conversation, we have to stop having an expectation, Jerry, that you pay your maintenance fee right on your CISP. Your employer should be paying that because your employer is demanding that you be CISP qualified. If your employer is demanding that you be Sec Plus certified, your employer should be paying for that. If your employer is demanding that you have any level of certification, your employer should pay for it. I think what has happened is that we've seen prices of certifications get exorbitantly high out of the realm. And you and I have both been in high level executive positions at organizations. You get, if you're lucky, $5,000 a head, if you're lucky, to pay for training and education for your team. And so that immediately right there sets a bar of training that you can't ever get anybody to. And so you're left with trying to figure out, how do you train a team at less than $5,000 a head? And that's if your boss doesn't come through and say, hey, look, you're going to have to figure out which projects you're going to have to cut because you're over budget and we need you to shave $1 million off or 500,000 off or whatever the case is. And the first place that they're going to look is they're going to look at your T&E budget. And so I'm a proponent for, let's change our mindset around certifications and let's change who the responsible party is for certifications. And I don't believe that you should be paying your maintenance fees, and I don't believe you should be paying your certifications.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting topic, but we've got so much to talk on. And having said all that too, I also would not dump on certifications, right? Like I have, like I said at the beginning, I have a CISA, a CISM,
Yeah.
a CISP, a SEC Plus, 3 or 4 different healthcare related ones because I was in that space. So I find value in them in that way, right? And another thing that there's value about, I saw a comment in here. I'll pull it up afterwards, but basically when you put this one right here, right? I know it's not a question, but Daniel says he got a cybersecurity professional certificate. Excellent. Okay, so that's probably not going to, whatever it is, it's probably not going to be on a quals for a job. But when you get into the interview, they might say, what is this? And it's a talking point. It's something that has impact on your resume that isn't filler, that is something that you can speak to, that talks about what did you do to prepare, how involved was it, what did you get out of it, right? Like, so there's ancillary or not ancillary, like indirect value from the certificate. It's not that you just get a certification and now you can walk through this gate. It is there's indirect value to it that you can distill out of it, like I just said. So
yeah, that's why. Like I said, my statement is always chase the knowledge. The cert will come.
Yeah, I'm getting all frothed up. So there's a really good question.
I could tell. I love it.
I know. Well, you bring it out of me, Neal. You do.
I do. This is Jerry's stream. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Simply Cyber. My name.
Yes. It's a very highbrow erudite stream normally. You've dragged me into the Mos Eisley Cantina, Neal.
That's right. I bring out the hype in you. I bring out the hype.
Okay, so Elise here had a really good question that I thought was interesting because I actually have a really good, I have an opinion on this one. So based on what you're seeing and what I'm seeing and what the community is seeing, when you go through a undergraduate program, she doesn't say undergrad, but let's assume undergrad program, whether it's computer science or cybersecurity, what gaps are you seeing in general of the higher education curriculum programs?
Is this a lead in where I think you're going to try to take this conversation to?
No, it just came up and it was a good question. But yeah, we can go there. Let me get my war paint on.
Oh, let's get the war paint on.
Yeah. All right.
So I do not think that graduates are coming into the field adequately armed to solve today's cybersecurity problems. I make no qualms about it. This is one when Jerry mentions in his intro that we have some like opinions and we have some differing opinions. This is definitely one of our differing opinions. I do not approve of higher education whatsoever. I do not think, just like certs, it's not required to be in the industry whatsoever. I don't think that you having a master's or a PhD makes you any more or less qualified at any level of leadership, management, or entry level to do the cybersecurity job whatsoever. And I think the problem stems from, and understand that I haven't, and when I say recently, within the last maybe 5 years, looked at a degree program. But prior to that, I was, University of Maryland, University College, a lot of the colleges that I was exposed to in the military when cyber was first being born, and then up until about 2016 from a cyber perspective, they were failing miserably at what they taught for cybersecurity, because you've got a bunch of old white fogies, right, who were computer science majors who knew how to program Fortran, who read a Sec Plus book and decided that they were going to write a freaking course curriculum on cybersecurity and slap a 4-year degree requirement on it and charge people $50,000 a year for their tuition. And I hated it because it didn't actually teach anybody anything about cybersecurity whatsoever. And I still don't think it does that. And so I don't think that universities can move fast enough to teach real cybersecurity. I would rather them scrap the cybersecurity part of their degree program, add the electives that they can agilely change to a computer science or a software development or a business or any other degree program, because quite frankly, I think that that's probably more valuable than them trying to spend years developing a cybersecurity program only to have it be outdated by the time a student goes through and takes it. And then you spend 4 years of your life and everything that you've learned as part of your cybersecurity program. Oh boy, here it comes. This is my soapbox time right now. Is complete garbage. Or even worse yet, you go to some university that does nothing but gets you certs anyway as part of the university program. Like, how is that solving the function of higher education if we're just going to go to a university and be like, hey, welcome to University of Neal. I'm going to go ahead with your tuition money and I'm going to take 35% of it and I'm going to buy all these certs for you to take and I'm going to keep the other 65% for myself. Don't think you don't know what's going on, right? But I'm going to give you a bachelor's degree in computer science because all you're doing is taking these certification programs that are over here. And so, yeah, I think higher education is a crock of BS.
Yeah. So there are definitely, I consider just dropping you and just be like, well, that's it for Neal Bridges today. No. So
I was waiting for it. When the screen got big, I was like, is this where I get disconnected or not?
It looks like Neal's having network issues. No. So, okay. So it is a big question and it's really unfair to paint the higher education picture or discussion with a binary brush, right?
Yes.
Because there are schools that are degree mills and there are schools like I knew a guy, I'm not going to name names or name schools or anything like that, but I knew a guy who got a bachelor's degree in 3 months, like start to finish. And I'm like, how is that possible? He's like, no, he's like, I just paid. I gave him a lump sum for the entire course and I took basically an exemption exam, passed it, and then I got an A in the class and moved on to the next one. And he just ripped through. I'm like, did you like? He's like, well, I don't need it. I don't need to learn anything because I already know it. But like, I'm just thinking, dude, you just cut a huge check. Basically, you just bought a bachelor's degree, basically, because I don't know what the tests were. I didn't look at them, but it really didn't feel like it was qualifyingly validating that this individual had the education to be able to do that. Right. So to me, that is a scam. And it's almost like an agreed handshake. Like we're going to give you, like we've gotten accredited and we're going to put this pants on and we're going to give you a bachelor's degree and you're going to give us a huge check. And it totally skews everything. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum where it is a good school, right? It's like, and not everyone can afford this, right? Higher education. Let's just put the money aside because higher education is grossly costly right now. So let's just put that aside.
Yeah.
A school like Purdue or a school like Dakota State University or Georgia Tech, like some of these programs have really built a great cybersecurity education. And I want to point out all of those and all the other ones that are associated with the NSA about maybe, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years ago, reached out to all sorts of universities across the United States. And I'm sorry for the international community folks, but reached out and said, this is what we need. This is what you should be doing. Malware analysis, software exploitation, security operations. Like these are the courses that you need to be teaching. And here's the curriculum that you need. And here's some money to get started. And these programs blew up. And I was fortunate enough to go through some of them. So what I will say to your point, yes, they don't move as quickly. And higher education, while it does have labs and stuff like that, it's oftentimes on the theory. And then you can build on your theory when you enter market on the principles and practices and directions you should be running. And that's, to me, where the value is. Now, final thing.
Okay, go ahead. Final thing.
Final thing. I have a master's in information assurance and a PhD in cyber ops. The PhD in cyber ops, it opened a lot of doors for me, but from a pure execution of capability perspective and opportunity for money and compensation jobs and stuff like that, that it didn't really do anything. The master's degree opened more doors, if you will, for me than the PhD. But the PhD is something that I wanted. I wanted that challenge as a personal goal. Can I do this? Do I love this field that much to commit 5 years, in a lot of sacrifice, frankly, to do it? Okay. So Neal, back to you.
And that's, and I don't want to take anything away from the personal achievement of doing a PhD. I'm super proud of you for doing it, just like anybody else who says that they've done it. But I want to go back to talking about opening doors because I want to challenge you a little bit on that one. I have not seen, and maybe I'm not in the same circles you are, which is entirely possible, but we do not have the specializations in cybersecurity like we do in the medical field, like we do in legal, like we do in accounting, where there is a gross difference between what you know at the bachelor's level, what you know at the master's level, and what you know at the PhD level. There is nobody who's saying, I'm going to hire a CISO and they must have a PhD, because there's something that you explicitly learn in a PhD program about that theory that makes you uniquely qualified to be a CISO.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the challenge that I push back, is that we're not to that point yet in cyber.
Yeah. So what I would say to that is the degree does not give you some nuanced to specific skill that, like tort law, right? Like
Right.
you either study tort law and you can do it, or you don't.
Right.
What I would say is, in my experience and from the people I know that have these degrees, what you end up getting is you get a broad exposure to like how it's supposed to be done across everything. So like I've never done professional pen testing, but I know web app exploitation, and I know how to write exploit code, and I know how to like disassemble code and look at it. You know what I mean? Like I've never done it professionally, but I have the skills. And while I'll never use those skills professionally, I believe understanding what it is makes me better at my actual job, because I understand like basically the whole scope of the industry, frankly, and the different roles and how they all interrelate with each other, instead of being really sharp and pointed in one skill and having little visibility in the other skills. And that's to me what the value is. It gives you that exposure in a controlled, appropriate way.
But what I will say is, if we just piggyback on that example about the malware malware development, exploit development type of analogy, right? That's not unique to university. That's not unique to a PhD program. We just got done talking about certification programs. Listen, we're on YouTube right now, and this is one of the things I tell I tell folks all the time, right? Is the school of YouTube has got some PhD equivalent type of stuff. All the stuff that you're talking about, you can get very, very good malware analysis education from YouTube. You're not getting what you might be getting to the tort law example that you used, is a tenured professor who actually executed against that, who can tell you their life stories about it. And I don't see that level of instruction happening in the majority, the 80% of the universities that are out there, where they've got malware analysis being tenured professors in the universities actually teaching malware development in the university. I think that's still the difference, is there's a mismatch between your expectation of learning knowledge in a university versus what you could potentially get, I hate to say it, on YouTube. And I think that mismatch is what creates the lack of value for me when it comes to advocating the degree programs.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with you that YouTube and other platforms, but YouTube, specifically, does have access to, let's say, 80% of the education that you could get. Part of the challenge is, and you see this with people who are new to the field,
The structure.
I want to work in cybersecurity. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know. Like, what are the options? Like, even though the content is there and it's readily at your fingertips, if you don't know what the structure, the curriculum, or the approach, or what to do first before second, and how to execute on it. And that's another thing that you get from a higher ed program. I mean, not to beat a dead horse. I mean, we both have our positions,
but I do agree. I agree with you on the structure. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the structure. There's a lot of people out there who need the roadmap to get things done. I'm working on something that I'm hoping will solve that.
Yeah, I like it. That'd be cool. I'm working on a GRC course that I really need to. Like my community, the Simply Cyber community. I get a lot of DMs like, "Bro, where are we with this GRC thing?" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry."
It's still up here. It's still up here. It's all good. It's not going anywhere.
Well, 60% of it's down on paper, but you can't just deploy a half ass. I guess that's my one swear word for the stream. But
ooh, do I get one? Can I pick mine?
Yeah. So just kind of jumping topics here. Chris asked, what makes you want to spend so much time helping out newbies? We do a lot, Neal. You do a lot with cyber insecurity. You do an AMA every Friday where it's basically like, if you got a question, answer it. What makes you do that? What motivates you?
I don't know. I love, to the point we talk about the lack of structure in the degree programs, the lack of structure to the content on YouTube, to the lack of where do I get started, to the lack of how does how does this function in cyber work? When we talk about answering questions, just to put this in perspective for everybody who's wondering, it's literally everything from how do I get into cyber to Neal, how does the C-suite look at this business decision? How do you justify the expenditure of EDR, right? It's literally everything, to my weight loss journey, to NFTs, to, you name it, we talk about everything. And it actually really is amazing to see the people who just want somebody to talk to, like you or I, who's been in this industry as long as we have, and they feel, and I hate that we've given this impression to people, and I know where it comes from. This is why we're very anti try harder on our stream, is because like there are people who legitimately believe, Jerry, that what you and I do is magic. Right? They believe that we sit on a golden throne in the world of cybersecurity, and they feel like what we do is just incredible magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize until I started doing it, until I started doing the AMAs, that people are just grateful to have somebody to ask real questions to, be like, hey, can you tell me what cyber's really like? Hey, can you tell me what burnout is really like? Hey, I heard that I should really do this. Can this really happen in cybersecurity? Right. And so I think that like, I found joy in, and that's a tagline of our stream, right? Is demystifying cybersecurity. I have really found joy in telling the hard truths about our industry, good, bad, or ugly, and demystifying what people think is this magic stuff that it is that we do. And that's actually what I enjoy, doing, is breaking those norms and demystifying that for people. And so what makes me want to do it? The hundreds of DMs that I get that tell me, Neal, I got a job, thanks to your content, thanks for looking at my resume live on stream. Thanks for, we hang out in sub chat. I know, Jerry, you've hung out in sub chat with us before, on our stream. Hey, I literally will be in sub chat and somebody will come in and ask me a question, and then I'll get a comment or a DM, a few days later. It's like, hey, I got that job, or, this thing helped me out so much. I literally got a message from somebody as we were coming on stream that I actually hadn't seen in the community for quite a while, which is not uncommon. And he was like, hey, about 6 months ago, you reviewed my resume on stream. You gave me this feedback on how to reword my, my military experience. I want to let you know that I got my first job in cybersecurity now, thanks to your resume advice. And I've been getting recruiters call me left and right. Right. Nice. And so like, it's knowing, and I'm sure you understand this. I'm sure you get this as well with what you do with Simply Cyber. It's knowing that we're having an impact on people's careers, whether they're just coming into the space, whether they've been in the space for 10 or 15 or 20 years, even if we can help them a little bit or a lot of it, it is honestly that feeling that fuels my ability to get in front of this camera and produce content.
Yeah. And, one of the things that you've indirectly said, but I feel it, and Jess Bishop, who I know is in chat right now, she said it on LinkedIn or Discord or somewhere recently. She said that Simply Cyber Discord server is inclusive. And I know cyber insecurity is too. Like literally there is places that you can go on the internet where if you ask, hey, like, what is, like, something basic, like what is the difference between authentication and authorization? And people, instead of answering your question, will just light you up, and all of these people will line up together and just bully you. Yeah. And it sucks because, like, it makes the person not want to ask again.
Yes.
It pushes them down. And the communities that we have, and there's other communities, it's not like we're special or anything, but it's a place of inclusion. It's a place of support and community, frankly. Yeah. And because you want to see everybody succeed. Nothing's better. Like, we just had two of my mods, Tom and Base, both just got jobs recently in the industry. And it was like fireworks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was loving it. And again, good on those guys. Yeah. So that's, no one asked me what motivates me, but I just like building a community that is, it's got its own identity now, frankly. It's beyond me at this point, but it's a safe place. It's included. And I feel like, we set those boundaries at the beginning, like, this is what it's going to be. Yeah. And then walked the walk and talk the talk, like, the tone at the top, like any other business or organization, whether it's a YouTube cyber community or a Fortune 500, whoever sets the tone of what's appropriate and, will be tolerated will permeate through the entire group. And so
I want to talk about that inclusivity and just a tad bit, because I think I'm former military. I know that we've got a ton of former military between both of our communities, and that are out there in just the broader cyber ecosphere, and we talk about that sense of community a lot in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a small industry. It may feel big at times, but a lot of us all know each other, either bumping into each other on live streams or collaborating on other projects or working with or for people in the industry. And so a lot of us know each other on some very, very personal levels. And one of the things that we have failed at, Jerry, keep me honest on this one. One of the things that we have failed at as an industry is being inclusive of people who are not in cyber. And we inherited this from the IT folks, who every time a user calls up about a printer issue, we're like, stupid users, right? Or every time somebody calls up with a password issue, stupid users. Every time somebody gets a victim of a phishing email, stupid users, right? And so we've inherited naturally, for right or wrong, right? It's obviously for wrong, this incredibly toxic mentality to people outside of cyber and outside of IT. We've brought that with us inside of cybersecurity. And so I think to be more effective in the C-suite, to be more effective in organizations, to be more effective in the business side of things, to actually enable the business to take the risks that they need to be successful, we have got to shift that mentality away from being toxic on our views of cybersecurity, and we've got to be more inclusive. And I think that starts with creating communities like this, where you have an inclusive mentality, because as folks from these communities grow up to be super awesome cybersecurity folks, they're going to take that inclusivity, feeling with them into their companies. And I think that's when we'll start to see changes in organizations to their cybersecurity posture.
I agree absolutely about the stupid users, the IT kind of mentality of, like if I've actually heard sysadmins say, like, if I didn't have any users, like my environment would be fine. So I'm 100% with you, but I would argue that there has been a transition, and I don't know if it's because I run my own program now or because I have, GRC skills. So I interface with business more, but I would argue that there has been a transition the last maybe 3 years, and it's getting progressively more. And I believe that transition is because the massive adoption of technology and the utility of mobile phones is like a core thing of everybody. So like your end user now isn't, Carl, who uses one of those like check printing machines that does this thing, right? It's Carl with a mobile phone who understands a PIN lock and understands that their account got hacked. Their Capital One account got hacked.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like, I guess we're in the golden age, because like cybersecurity, it's gone from like a cool little sexy magic thing on a Hollywood big screen to front page news, mainstream media. Terminology is becoming more commonplace with that end user community. So you're able to have a little bit more of an actual conversation with them, instead of like, damn it, Carl, like I told you not to write your password down on a sticky note. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that's bridging the gap, and I don't know if you've seen anything like that, but I do feel, I'm speculating, right, that's the reason why, but it seems like an obvious reason.
I think you're right in the sense that we are starting to see a generation that is growing up with technology. Now, I think what that does is I think that comes with its own sets of pros and cons. I would argue that the cons with that is most people used this device as a babysitter for their kids, when they were, 4, 5, 6, something like that. And that has turned into, they have had unfettered access to technology since they were, a child and adolescence. And they don't understand cybersecurity because they didn't grow up with cybersecurity. They grew up with their PIN code being 1, 2, 3, 4. They grew up with their password to their Instagram accounts being password 1, 2, 3, right? And things like that. And they weren't taught cybersecurity fundamentals. And so I think that, yes, while we have a more tech savvy generation coming up into the business and into the IT space, what is coming up with that is a ton of bad habits.
Well, and Zoltan actually brings up a really good point. I'm glad this came up. Think about it from the other perspective of the end user and their angst against us. We require multi-factor authentication.
Yep.
We won't let you use generic accounts for the entire
Yep.
like consulting team that's only here for 3 weeks for a project.
Right.
Well, the consulting team has got their fingers on our ERP. So how about we don't give them a generic accounts? Carl, like Carl's everywhere, right? So
I could tell. We got to have a conversation with Carl.
yeah, no. Carl shows up a lot in the morning threat briefings. It's usually Carl's fault. But anyways, so this is another good point. And this is solved in a different way, I would argue, when security's in the way. You have political capital that you earn through doing certain good things for the community, your user community, and then sometimes you have to spend them when you introduce some challenge to them, and hopefully you can explain to them why you're making them do multi-factor authentication.
We can let me piggyback on that comment really quick, because I do think that we have been the organization of no for so long. To your point, can I have generic accounts? No. Can I have one password for all my accounts? No. Right? We've been the organization of no for a long time. I had a CISO, awesome CISO that I worked for a number of years ago. I'll tell a story. I may have some people on my stream have probably heard me tell this story before. He brought me and the chief architect into his office one day, and he was like, so guys, I want to hire you to be my protection detail. I want you to go out and build me an armored car. Make it the best armored car in the world. I want you guys to protect my armored car and protect me as I drive my armored car. And so we played out this little role play game with him. And he said, okay, now in my armored car that you just built me, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go to the south side of Chicago. And me and the chief architect looked at each other, because I was running SecOps at the time and he was chief architect. And we looked at each other. We were like, we're not taking you to the south side of Chicago. That's dumb. Like, that's just dumb. We're not going to do that. And he was like, see, that's the problem. Cybersecurity is telling people, no, you built me an armored car. You built me something secure, but you won't let me take risk. If it is for my business and I need to be in the south side of Chicago for our business to grow and expand, because there's cheap labor, cheap materials, promising market, whatever the case is down there, cybersecurity's mantra should be to enable the business to take risk. And I think that that's where we've missed the mark on our conversation, is that we build these awesome, cool security things, and then the business says, cool, I'm going to go take some risk in a new market space. And we're like, no, don't do that, because we're going to get hacked. And then the question is like, well, hold on. I know I'm going to get shot at when I go to the south side of Chicago. Didn't you just build me an armored car that was going to, do that? Didn't you just like plan my escape route so that we can get out of there when we start getting shot at and things like that? And I think that that's where we've messed up, is we want everybody to invest in us and pay for new toys and new processes and new people and things like that. And then when the business wants to take risk, we come in and say no, and we lose them. We lose the business at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the way it's still happening, that is sad. I mean, what I would say is, what typically happens is, if you're given the money and you're given the time to build the armored car in this case,
yeah,
and then you know that it's going to go to the south side of Chicago, so you look at like what are the threats in the south side of Chicago, right? Do they have rumble strips that are going to pop your tires? Well, then we need, bulletproof tires. Is it, are they going to drop in on the windows, right? So you build a security program or an armored car that matches or it addresses the threats that are coming to you. The problem that I see, Neal, and I'm almost dumbfounded when you started talking about this armored car situation, is that the executives typically just march into Chicago without even mentioning to you that they need an armored car. They're just like,
yeah,
we got an opportunity, dude. And it's
that,
like, dude,
that
like,
does happen.
I would have built you a car. Just ask me. I went to school for 1,000,000 years so I could build you a car.
That also does happen. Yes, that does happen. I guess the analogy works really well in organizations that have been told that they must build the armored car. Because I think that's a trend that we're starting to see. When I talk to boards, when I talk to private equity companies, when I talk to investors, they're becoming very, very savvy on saying, you will be SOC 2 compliant. You will be NIST compliant. You will have a SOC team. You will have an incident response team. You'll be doing annual penetration testing. You'll be doing all these things that they've now heard about for the last 5 or 6 years. Like, I think businesses are getting more savvy in that. And yes, what you described definitely still does happen, but I think it's probably more of a 50-50 split between what you're talking about and businesses who say, okay, fine, fine. The board wants me to have an armored car before I go to the south side of Chicago. Let's hire a CISO, build me an armored car, and let's go to the south side of Chicago when you build the armored car. I think that's becoming more and more, commonplace.
Yeah, well, I had a list of hot takes that, like the higher ed, PhD versus no education was a hot take that I knew we would have disagreements on. It's almost 5:30, and so
has it been an hour already? Wow.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate. We've been hovering at 100 people joining us today on this live stream, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I love it. So we won't be able to get into like a deep discussion on this, but you're talking about the board saying that you need an armored car, and I really like this armored car example now. Talking about
you can use it. I'll license it to you.
Oh my God, bro! All right. So listen to me. The Neal Bridges armored car. I believe. I used to think that the board was saying you need an armored car, you need to invest in security because they were hearing about ransomware in the news. I now believe that cybersecurity insurance, and this is a hill I'll die on. Cybersecurity insurance is driving businesses to invest in security because the CFO is getting an invoice for 4x, 6x, 8x of their insurance premium, and the board has told them you need insurance, right? That's how you combat ransomware as far as the board's concerned. Yeah. That's what you do. And when the policy costs 8x from what you budgeted because of last year's numbers, they say, well, how the hell is this happening? What do I do? And the insurance company says, well, just put in PAM, MFA, SIM, like DLP, which they wouldn't say that. But anyways, so what are your takes on cybersecurity insurance? And then we're going to wrap up.
I hate this conversation. I hate this conversation because I do.
Well, I enjoyed it, so it was nice talking with you.
Oh God, yeah.
No, I get it. You hate the topic,
I do because you're right, and somebody BSEC will have to clip that one and save that one for later, where I'm actually openly admitting that you're right, Jerry.
Oh, I thought you meant clip like when you said I hate this conversation while staring right at me. No.
I had to admit that you were right. That's what I.
Yeah, everybody clip that. Tom, Base, BSEC, Josh, clip it.
Yeah. You're right, because insurance is a terminology that the board recognizes, right? They recognize it from their business resiliency, from their disaster recovery plans. They recognize it from their home automation and their home insurance, right? It's a term that they recognize. And when cyber insurance started, cyber insurers didn't understand how to do pricing because you're missing a key component in the cyber insurance conversation, which is the likelihood of a cyber attack. And so they started to go out and source to a bunch of these consulting firms, big four, where they're like, hey, how do we determine likelihood of a cyber incident, occurring at a company, or a cyber outage or a ransomware or something like that happening at a company? And that's where you get into, if they have PAM, if they have DLP, if they have EDR, if they've got email gateways, if they got CASBs, then the likelihood goes down. And they built those models into their cyber insurance, pricing models. And I've been in those rooms where I've had to pitch our cyber protection model to a room full of underwriters to try to convince them that we had good cyber protection so that we wouldn't get charged out the yin yang for our cyber insurance premiums. And they don't know anything. They don't know anything about cyber. They truly are just listening for, do you have an IR team? Do you have EDR?
Yeah.
Do you have DLP? Do you have CASB? Right? And if you have all of those things, they're like, cool, you've got a lower premium because your likelihood has gone down of a cyber attack. And that incredibly simple way of figuring out how cyber insurance premiums does, I think, has overly simplified the armored car analogy.
Because, they don't ask. They don't ask if. So okay, you have multi-factor authentication. Awesome. They don't ask if it's turned on or what user accounts have it. So you have multi-factor, but it's on nobody's account. You have a SIM, but no logs are going into it.
Yeah.
Right? Like they don't ask that question. They ask basically, do you have appliances?
Yeah.
Not are they still in a box on the server room floor? They don't ask that.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. It's and I think it sets a dangerous precedent. This is why I hate the cyber insurance conversation, is because I've had CEOs and CFOs come to me and say, Neal, should we buy cyber insurance? And I cringe because I know what they want to hear is a simple yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer isn't a simple yes or no, right? Because then if you tell them yes, they go out buy cyber insurance and they think they have to do nothing else. They have to do nothing else for cybersecurity whatsoever because they've got cyber insurance. They're protected. It's a risk diversion. It's a risk catch-all bucket on their side that they feel like they don't have to do anything else for. And so I've written about, you can go to my LinkedIn. You can see an article that I wrote about cyber insurance a number of years ago after I sat with Aon and who's the other London big big insurer?
Beasley?
No,
Beasley?
No. The one that has like the big cyberpunkish looking building in London. God, I can't remember their name. But anyway, sat with those guys and I came back and my mind was blown as to how flawed the cyber insurance market was.
Yeah, they definitely don't have practitioners informing them. It would seem they're just basing it on like this place got hacked and we paid a policy. Let's ask them what their security posture was, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we're a couple minutes over time, but I do want to tease something that was teased on Neal's stream yesterday and teased on First Things First this morning, my threat briefing show. If you guys are interested, if you enjoyed the conversation with this gentleman right here and this guy right here, tomorrow morning, this is kind of a one-off Renegade broadcast. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, Neal and I are going to be going through SANS 20 coolest careers. They listed 20, made a big poster of it. We're going to go through all 20 in probably half an hour or less. It's going to be rapid fire. Neal will take half. I'll take half. We might reserve 2 opportunities, 2 flags to dispute what the person just said.
Yeah.
And we're going to run through, tell you what the job is, tell you what's awesome about it, and tell you what sucks about it. So you can be better informed on all of the different opportunities. Everything isn't just about pen testing in the information security space. There are a ton of roles, and we're going to cover all 20, well, at least 20 of them. Tomorrow morning.
Hopefully we can get through all 20 of them. I like it. I love the idea. I'm super grateful that you asked me to come and do that, by the way. And for those who are wondering, this is obviously I talked about this last night. This is going to take the place of Tea with a Hacker tomorrow. You know, and I'm actually enjoyed. I'm grateful, Jerry. I'll get to share my tea with you, and I think you're going to have some coffee in the morning. So
gotta have coffee.
Gotta have coffee. I'll bring the tea and everything. But no, I'm looking forward to this. I think it's gonna be fun. What's your? Oh God. What do you think is the most undervalued? Don't look at the list. Don't look at the 20. What do you think is the most underrated cybersecurity job out there right now?
What's your criteria? Like has the biggest impact on a program, but nobody knows it, or it's the
let's go with that one.
Oh, geez. Oh, you kind of caught me off guard.
Boom, and that's how we do it in cybersecurity, right there, baby.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, Neal, you got to understand. Like I analyze everything. So now you when you ask me a question of an extreme, what is the most?
That's right.
Now I have to go through all of the jobs and begin evaluating them.
Audience, this is what a buffer overflow looks like right here. We have now exploited Jerry.
Yeah, you really have. You know what I would say? It's getting a little bit more pronounced, and I don't even know if you would consider it a cybersecurity role, but identity and access management engineer is like so important right now. And there's a lot of people who don't know how to do it. I think that's one, because zero trust architecture, to throw a word out, like the identity is the most important thing to protect now. And there's a lot of people who don't know how to do it right. And you'll just spend $500,000 on SailPoint and throw it at it, and then it's not configured right. So, and retrofitting an existing organization's poorly, designed identity and trying to retrofit it into an existing, a new solution is incredibly laborious and usually doesn't work. So that's my answer.
I'd buy off on that one. One for sure. BSEC wants us to talk about NFTs before we leave.
All right. We got a couple minutes, but I really have a hard stop. I've got some family.
No. We'll do it tomorrow. I'm gonna pick you up. We're gonna talk about NFTs in the morning.
Yeah, we do need to do NFTs. All right. So everybody, like I said, it was going to be a slightly different stream today. I think that's exactly what we delivered. I loved the conversation, Neal. Thank you for coming on. Simply Cyber community and cyber and security community. I know you sent a blast on your Discord, and a bunch of people came over. So, really much appreciation to all of you. Great questions. I know we couldn't get to all of them, but thank you, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. for the threat briefing and 8:30 for the SANS 20 cybersecurity controls. All right. Thanks so much.